It's like almost impossible.
Right.
Ya, si le gusta, ese se ve bien. Ya está.
Pero entonces, ¿a dónde nos tenemos que poner?
Pase ya
Espérate, yo creo que estamos
a la posición de la cámara.
A ver cómo se ve. Pero si alguien está hablando y se pone el tipo de...
Así se ve chiquito.
Sí, yo prefiero así.
No, pero o sea, así se queda, así está puesto. Eso él tiene de qué. Pero
Sí, así mejor.
sí, ahí se ve
Sí.
Pero ¿cómo es lugar?
I love Michigan last year.
Yeah. What time did you go? Okay. Because we had a group come on a bus after IACA in, Ontario.
I'm sorry, it wasn't 2020.
Okay. It's great.
I feel like it's
So I just moved there 2 years ago. Okay. She's doing great in her new role. It's a directorship of our office. It's nice.
perfecto.
Yo único que no sé si tenemos el clicker.
Si no se escucha ahí,
Good cry people, he does 30 minutes. These are all those people. But he's like, he's very, he's a good sport, but he's like very
He probably would have also been in high school when COVID started.
that he just thinks he's cute. He was not, it would have been,
Yeah. No, that's great.
we were just,
Because I had a lot of middle school students who were
the guy,
super wrapped up.
I firmly believe that, like, we did, my job, that was a hard, God, I didn't know conscientious. I have a 9-year-old who we did not control her. She lived in the same house for 9 years. She was in the hospital and she fell. My dad was an executive, like, literally 6 months later, he gets a check and he goes, like, he's like, "What's this?" What? The government, what? So my dad was like in charge, my dad's in charge of the state, but also last time is like, he's supposed to be like, but he's not, he's in charge of course, he's divided into 15 people.
It wasn't around her family. Especially the most.
But yeah, there is, the doors after that, was like, Washington's guys. Washington's.
Don't live in fear.
Empezamos a ver qué es lo que pasa.
Hi, welcome everybody. So it's great to have everybody here. I can see we have representation from different schools and also from the university. So today we have 5 wonderful universities. I'm going to have our dear Jo Beth introduce them. Many of you know Jo Beth. She makes sure she has an annual visit through Panama on her way to South America, and we're very grateful for that. So they were in schools all morning. They're going to continue going to high schools tomorrow, but we want to make sure we hosted this event. And for everybody watching live stream in Santiago, Chiriquí, just let us know if you're hearing okay. We want to make sure that we open these type of events and give you valuable information so that you can do your best during your application process and have the most resources. And it's best if you ask the representatives from the university directly any questions they might have. So after the presentations, they have tables here, so they're here for you to answer any type of questions you may have. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to our wonderful Jo Beth.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to come to Panama and see the students here. You guys always have really interesting questions and thoughts to the future, and that's what we want to do, is spend some time with you talking about what should I be thinking about when I think about studying in the future. Should I go abroad? Should I stay in Panama? Should I wait for graduate studies to go abroad? It's important things for you to be thinking about. We have 5 universities from the United States with us this evening, from different parts of the U.S., and they all have great opportunities for you to choose careers within their universities, to combine some really excellent different fields of study, different ways for you to live on their campuses, and of course financial assistance, which is always important, especially all the moms and dads that are in the room with us. We are going to start with an overview of how do you find your fit in a university. Does anybody know how many universities we have in the U.S.? Throw out a guess. We have 5 for sure. But anybody have any guess?
Including like community colleges?
Yeah, institutions of higher learning.
20,000.
No, not that many, maybe someday. We have 4,500 institutions of higher learning in the U.S. So it is an extremely important process when you start to think about what school is my fit? Where will I be happy? Where will I find my community? So we're going to spend some time looking at that. We're going to talk a little bit about how do I apply to the university, because we talk about it as a process. So how do I prepare this process? How much time do I need? And we're also going to talk to you about how do I consider the costs, the process of financing my studies in the U.S., and what does it all entail. We also then have a little overview of what are some of the most up-and-coming fields of study in the U.S., because, and as I look at all these young faces, I think the days of you have to be an accountant, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor, I hope they're over, and you can really study what you're passionate about and what you want to do in the future. And think about it. Probably the field that you will be involved in 5, 7, 10 years down the road because of the way technology is moving. It hasn't been invented yet. So what an exciting time to be young people and think about your opportunities. I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues now. We're going to get started. And so how do you find your fit? Thank you. I'll be around all evening. Anybody who wants to chat with me about anything at all, please do come over. And here we go.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jane Benson-Rivera. I'm from the Office of International Admissions and Recruitment at the University of Albany. And we are a large public research one university located in Albany, New York. So the northeast region of the country, we're a state capital, offering many different programs that we can certainly chat about later. Fun fact about my university, we have won national championships in esports, and we just opened a brand new state-of-the-art esports arena last semester. So lots of great academics at my school, and also lots of ways to have fun beyond the classroom as well. So, finding your fit, you can see here, there's lots of different things listed. In the U.S. as a whole, we feel very strongly that fit is critical in making your university choice. Students who are at the right fit institution always do well academically. So we feel it's very important to do your homework, to find out about the different institutions available. And there's many things to consider. You know, what part of the country would you be most comfortable in? What's the size of the institution? Do you see yourself in a major metropolitan area? Do you have to be in a place that, you know, is a 24-hour, all-day, all-night experience? Or do you want someplace a little bit quieter? Do you want to be in a small college town? You know, some of our best schools in the U.S. are colleges in very small communities, but academically they're very strong. Program. The first consideration, obviously, you have to be someplace that offers the program you anticipate on majoring in, but also you want to make sure that the other academics are strong for you as well. Is there the availability of different concentrations or minors, you know, all these things. EducationUSA is here to help you. University reps are here to help you as well, to really find out of all the tremendous opportunities that are available. And then another thing we say in the U.S. is that as much of the education takes place outside the classroom as inside. I don't think there's another system in the world that puts as much focus on things beyond the classroom. So internships, co-ops, research opportunities, leadership opportunities, things to really build your resume and make yourself marketable when you apply to graduate programs or you look to go into the workforce. So again, those are things that are critical in your decision-making process. And then all these other things as well. We'll talk a lot about costs of attendance and making sure that financially you're set up for success as well. But just a little bit here to get the conversation started.
Hi friends, my name is Evan Kelly. I'm the International Student Recruiter and Admissions Coordinator at Ferris State University. We're in Michigan. Just real quickly, something fun about our school. We just won our Division II American football tournament. So in the vein of finding your right fit, sports is one of the aspects of campus culture, right? There are things that bring campus together. So finding a school that has the sports you might be interested in or the other events that you might be interested in is a great way to find your place, your right fit. But I'm talking about majors right now. So what is a major? A major is your program of study. It's what you're going to your university or college to do. You can look, the next question here is, what does undecided major mean? It's kind of a simple but tricky question, because undecided, it means you don't know what you want to do, which can be okay. A lot of our schools have a lot of different programs, but generally, if you're going to the United States on a study visa, you're going to have to at least select one program that is your choice program. It's also okay to change your major after you have arrived, if you change your mind. But it is difficult to obtain a visa if you're just generally undecided. But your major is what you're doing, it's why you're there. How can you double major? Double major means just what it sounds like. You apply yourself to 2 different majors. For example, accounting and marketing. So those would be 2 different business programs, so you could double major in something. So you'd end up with 2 degrees. Sometimes that does take some more time. It's easier to double major if the two majors are related, like say 2 business degrees. More challenging if you have a marketing degree and a modern dance degree to find the courses that overlap so that you can get that done in a good amount of time. How can I build my program that includes general education core? Okay, so when you start your program, there are core classes, what are often called general education classes, that everyone has to take to make you a well-rounded student, a holistic, well-rounded student. So you start out taking many different courses at American universities, and then you focus down as you go through your studies and really get more specific as you go through the time. And you can end up with different types of courses. You may be a physics major, but you're going to take English literature. You'll take a cultural class, and that's a great way to make yourself into your best version of yourself. Let's see, building credits to fill my degree. Most classes are typically 3 or 4 credits. So each semester, each half of a school year, you'll usually take 4 to 5 classes. A heavy load would be 6 classes. So it's about finding the right amount of classes to manage your time so you graduate within time while still being able to focus on your classes. And then different degree pathway options. We've got traditional 4-year degrees. There are also even shorter than that 2-year degrees called associate's degrees. Our typical traditional 4-year degree would be a bachelor's degree. And then beyond that, you've got graduate degrees, master's, and doctoral programs. We do also have these other options though. Different schools have different programs. For example, 3+2 would be starting out with 3 years at a liberal arts college, getting a general rounded education in liberal arts, and then usually transferring to an engineering school where would you end up having your last 2 years doing engineering and end up with 2 different bachelor's degrees. 4+1 or 4+2 are programs where you're doing a combination where you end up getting both a master's and, a bachelor's and a master's degree in the course of those 4+1 or 4+2 years. And lastly, on their co-op, many programs have an option of an internship to work with a company, to work with an organization, a hospital, whatever your program is, to build your hands-on skills, to build your network and connections. Some programs require those. So, for example, a business program might require that you have an internship. So it's not just an option within the program, it's a critical part of that program. So that would be a co-op program. And then transfers, we have many different things. People start out at community colleges, they'll start out at one college or university and decide they want to go elsewhere, and then they can be a transfer student. And there are different ways to do that. It can be challenging and it can be easy depending on how the 2 programs that you've been studying in align. But in general, as an international student on an international visa, you can transfer from one institution to another one without having to go home, and you can continue your studies at a new institution.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Tracal. I work for Arizona State University. And thank you all for being here today. I'm very excited to share information with you all. ASU has been the #1 in innovation for the 10th year in a row, also #1 for global impact and sustainability. And we are the #2 public university in international student enrollment. So I'm going to talk about the first part of the application. So when a student is thinking about studying abroad, so there are different admission requirements by institution and by also school programs, but there are some common quantitative pieces for all the universities. So there are like 3 ways to apply. One is using the Common App. The other one is the coalition system that is used for some universities. And also you can apply just going to the university website. So when you apply, Using, for example, the Common App or Collision application, you're going to fill out the personal information with your first name, last name, date of birth, and so then you can apply to different universities and you are going to pay an application fee that can go from like $25 up to like $100. And so it's just one form and you apply to not just one university, but different universities if it's that of your interest. And same thing with Coalition or with the university website. So once you apply, so then you are going to be requested to submit, to ask your high school to send the official high school transcript to the institution. If the transcript is not in English, so you need an official translation, English translation. Like the translation has to be made by a certified translator. So then we have exams. So we have the English language. Some the schools that are not like American schools, well, their sole instruction is in English, so they might require that those students take one of the English languages tests, like TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. And then if there are some institutions that require SAT or ACT, some are optional, and some are test blind. And also the last piece is financial statements. You have to prove to the college that you have enough funds to pay for your college expenses.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Roberto. I am on the admissions team at Hope College. We're a small Christian liberal arts school in Michigan, the same state as Ferris University. And a fun fact about Hope, how many colleges and universities did Joe Beth say were in the United States? Who remembers? 4,500. Out of all of those, Hope College has the longest lasting college tradition in the country. It's a tug of war that started in 1918. It's called the Pull, and it's a tug of war between the freshmen and the sophomores. There's only 3 years that it's never happened since 1918, the fall of World War I, the fall of World War II, and can anyone guess what year it didn't happen? COVID. But other than that, I did it when I was a student. It's a ton of fun. So my colleague Laura mentioned the quantitative process, and I'm going to touch on the qualitative pieces of your application. First and foremost, all of these may be required or they may be optional. It depends on the institution that you are applying to. So for example, at Hope, a letter of recommendation is not required, but it could be a supplemental piece to add to your application. If you are going to add a letter of recommendation, please don't just automatically select someone or force someone to write your letter that isn't excited to write that letter for you. If you ask someone and they aren't saying yes with excitement, move on to the next person. Choose someone that wants to write your letter of recommendation, because we, as admissions reps, when we read that letter, we can tell when it's kind of forced or when it's genuine. Resumes, again, Hope doesn't require one, but sometimes an application will ask for a resume, and there it's just adding more light to who you are as a student. What have you done outside of high school? What things are you involved in? Sports, extracurriculars, what are you passionate about? This is, again, just adding more to your application, aside from the black and white numbers that we see on the quantitative side. Portfolios, this is really exclusively for individuals that want to pursue the fine arts, creative writing, dance, theater, music, and art. Hope College has scholarships that we award, and international students are eligible to receive these awards. Those departments ask for a portfolio. of your writing, work that you've done in art, film, if you're a theater student, or stage management. The application process asks for kind of your work, and that's what a portfolio means. Interviews, some admissions teams will formally interview their applicants, some don't. Hope has no formal interview. However, the interactions that I have with the students that I'm recruiting do matter in the application and in the admittance process. And then finally, essays and personal statements. Sometimes in the applications, schools will have optional supplemental questions. For example, when you apply to Hope, and many students apply via the Common Application, Hope includes 2 optional questions. Why are you applying to Hope College? And a question, I'm not sure how it's worded, but about your identity. Like what excites you, what are you passionate about? Optional, and you could write a couple words, or it could be a full couple paragraphs. But this is just adding to that qualitative piece, especially with international students where I might have never met you, and this is just giving me more light into who you are as an applicant.
Hi everyone, finally we got to me. I've been standing there quietly reading the slides, but my name is Natalia Zavala. I am an international admission counselor at Fordham University. We're in New York City. And the fun fact about my university is that we actually have 2 campuses in New York City. One is in the northern part of the city called the Bronx, and it's a big campus that's very traditional, but we also have an urban campus in Manhattan. And the last tidbit I'll throw out is that one of our notable alums is Lana Del Rey. But anyway, I'm going to expand upon what my colleague Roberto just said about us not really getting to know a lot of you because you are international students. The essay is actually a really big way that we get to know applicants, regardless of where they're from, because we read thousands of applications, and the essay, I would say, is the biggest window we have into getting to know you as a person. So we want to go into a little bit more depth about how to make this a strong part of your application. So the first step is to really read that prompt correctly. You can also call that the instructions as well, making sure that whatever you're writing for the essay actually responds to the question or the prompt, and writing about something that's super meaningful to you. So something that I think students fall into sometimes is that they think they have to write about something super crazy, super grandiose to stand out in the admissions process. I'll use myself as an example. I wrote about something very normal, and it was about learning a new language. But it was about my specific experience with doing that. So what you're doing through the essay is really sharing an experience, an encounter, but in particular, how it impacted you. Because that's what helps us, the admissions counselors that are reviewing your application, get to know you and see how you would fit in at our institutions. This goes into presenting yourself in a manner that's very honest. Are you someone who's very driven, who's very curious, who's passionate, who went through a scary experience and then grew from that? Whatever that experience is, the more honest, the better. I know I can speak on behalf of my colleagues to say we know when an essay is very personal and very honest because it comes through in the way that the student expresses themselves. For all of this, to accomplish this, it's best to start early. I would not write the essay a week before the application is due. I would get started several months ahead of time, write it once, write it twice, run it by people who know you and people who don't know you, so that you see that the right message is coming across, regardless of who's reading it, whether they know you or they don't. And it's important to write something that's captivating, something that makes you unique. Another trap that students fall into is that they talk about being, I don't know, French club president. Many applicants are French club president. What made your experience unique when you were French club president? Did you start something interesting at the club that had never been done before? Things like that. So it's important to make yourself unique in the process as well. Obviously, using formal language, proofreading, all of that. And at the end, making sure that sometimes you get to the point as quickly as possible. Less is more. We're reading thousands of applications. So making sure that you accomplish this in the least amount of words that you can, but still getting that point across. Another aspect of the qualitative pieces that I'll go into more depth is the resume/activity profile. So when you are applying to the university, we want to see what you're doing outside of classes. So I'll use the example, French club president is another way, right? Were you in student organizations? Were you playing a sport? Were you volunteering? These are all things that we care about a lot. in many of our universities where we're going through a review process that's very comprehensive. We're not just looking at your grades, we're looking at everything put together. There may be a section in the application for this. So as one of my previous colleagues mentioned, in the common application or in other university-specific applications, there's going to be something called the activities section. So that's a place where you can definitely delineate all of the different activities, and you're given usually a few words, 50 words, to explain what that activity was. And it's important to not, dock yourself in that process. What did you do when you were in French club? Did you participate in weekly meetings? Did you lead anything? Did you start anything? You can include community service, you can include research, you can include internships or jobs. You don't need to include 15 different activities. It's better to just focus on the things that were important to you and that might even be related to the program of study that you were interested in. So for all of those of you who enjoy computer science, maybe you were part of coding club, maybe you started a coding club, maybe on your own you learned a new coding language. These are all different ways that you can express a certain interest by showing an activity that you consistently participated in. It's great to establish those connections. It's part of telling the story of who you are to us, those who are reviewing your application. And in general, we're looking for many things, not just how many activities you did, but did you participate in them many hours a week? Did you participate in them for the whole 4 years that you're expressing throughout high school? So we're looking at many different ways that you tell us who you are. Are you someone who sticks with things, who tries a lot of new things? So think about that when you're doing this activities section and this resume. One final note, there's activities section and resume. Those are two different things. Some schools will ask you to turn in both. Some will ask you to turn in only one. Make sure you pay attention. For Fordham, for example, we do not want your resume. You're supposed to put it in the activities section of the Common App. And I can't tell you how many times I get the same information twice. So it's important to think through this and get into every school and see what their policy is.
Awesome, back to me. So application do's and don'ts, there are many. Here we've highlighted just a handful, and I'll start with the do's. This first one, it's kind of redundant to say it again, but I will. Plan ahead, plan accordingly. One of the first questions I would ask an admissions counselor or representative is timeline and deadlines. What deadlines do you have, does your institution have, that I, as a student, need to be aware of? For example, at Hope, that's November 1st, December 15th, and February 1st. Those are individual to Hope, and they might not exist at other institutions, but each one of those at Hope has a specific reason why I highlight them in the application process. So plan accordingly, plan ahead, ask the question, what dates must I know if I'm planning to apply to your college, to your university? Research. Again, 4,500 options in the United States alone. So get specific with what you're looking to get out of your experience if you want to study in the United States. Geographically, academically, socially, you have the option to get very, very specific and still have options within what you're looking for. So don't be afraid to really hone in on exactly where you want to study, around who, and what subject. Pay attention to scholarships and financial aid. Ask the questions, ask them, and ask questions at each university, and it might get tiring, but each university will have a different answer to the same question, because we're all very different. So for example, what scholarship for an international student looks like at Hope is going to be different in every single one of these universities. So it's kind of, again, redundant on your end, but ask the same question to all the universities because the answers are going to be different. And then finally, and this has become more, especially for your generation, more important, but in maintaining a clean social media presence. How many of you have an Instagram? I'm sure all of you do, but you don't want to raise your hand. That's fine. I have an Instagram, right? We all have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We check them. It might be private. If it's not private, consider making it private. But what you post online is online and for people to see. So just be cognizant of what you're posting online. Even silly things like an email that you created when you were 12. The email I created when I was 10 was MexicanMidfielder10@AOL.com. I have since not used that email, right? When I started applying to colleges, And in college, when I started applying for jobs, I made a specific email that was more professional, roberto.escalante@gmail. And so those little things matter. So those are some do's, and again, ask around because there are many do's that as admissions reps we come across. For the don'ts, this is, yes, obviously have someone else prepare the application for you. Needless to say, but we'll say it, especially the essay. I think feedback is important, but we want to make sure that you are applying to the college and not your friend, not your brother or sister or your parent. We want you to apply. Prepare the application trying to impress the reader or the admissions officer. This also goes for interactions as well. Don't give us the answer you think we want to hear. Give us the answer that you want to give and that you want us to hear. Because there is nothing that, again, we have done this for a long time, and I think I can speak for my colleagues when I say that we can suss out when someone is being genuine and when someone is just feeding us what they think we want to hear. So please be genuine and just be yourself, because that goes a really long way. Again, deadlines. If you don't ask when the deadlines are, you're going to miss them. So do the work on the front end and ask the universities what important deadlines they have. And then finally, don't forget to thank the people that you're working with. As admission counselors, it goes a long way when we get a thank you from a student. We work with a lot of students, and not all of them say thank you. So we do remember the names of the students that go out of their way to thank us for the work that we do, even if you don't end up coming to our university or college, because you never know. Your paths might cross in the future. For example, Hope is only undergrad, and you might choose to come to us, but then to another college or university for graduate school. And so that goes a long way, paying respect and thanking the people that help you along for this process, even if ultimately you don't end up going to that specific school.
So I'll start the conversation about cost and financial aid by speaking a little bit about scholarships. And the one thing that we're all really happy about is that we do have various streams of funding for both our domestic and our international students. However, it's usually different depending on whether you're domestic or if you're coming to us from overseas. So it's important as a consumer to always know the price point, the final price point, and how that might change during the 4 years of study. So we caution everyone to kind of be very comfortable with what you'll expect to pay, and really, do the work to make sure that you know what that final bottom line will be, because it is very confusing. Just like there's so many options for schools, there's almost as many different types of aid that are offered depending on the university that you're looking at. So the primary one, really the most common is merit. So everyone has a different idea of what merit should be depending on the profile of their university. So for my institution, we just look at your academic preparation and your extracurricular activities and your essay, and we come up with a determination of what merit-based scholarship you'll receive. Scholarships, it will tell you right in the letter what your requirement is to keep that scholarship throughout your study. So at my school, it says it's renewable for all 4 years as long as you maintain this GPA. And so that's really important, because if you come and you don't perform to your abilities, and we're only admitting students who are able to perform well, you're going to lose that funding source. So it's important to know at the beginning what our requirements are. And the admissions offices, we're bound by those requirements as well. So that's the important consideration. Oftentimes you'll see grants. Grants tend to be renewable or not, depending on the needs of the institution from 1 year to the next. So although scholarships are renewable, grants may or may not be. Again, it's important to keep that in mind when you're making that decision. My school does not offer grants, we only do the scholarship piece. And then different things, there's talent scholarships for arts, for music, for leadership. And they vary from one school to the next. We have a marching band scholarship, we have a leadership scholarship, and we have an arts scholarship as well. So there's a lot of different sources that you can pile on top of each other to make things affordable. Athletic scholarships in the US, Division I programs can fund athletes. I will say it is very competitive to achieve those athletic scholarships. Albany offers them from $500 all the way up to full pay. But again, it's only Division I programs. You have to work with the coaches, and they're tough to get, obviously. And then student loans. There's a variety of companies out there that will offer loans to students. I would caution you by saying that all of us from the universities that are represented here, if you reached out to us, we would definitely speak to you regarding that process. We want you to be informed consumers, and we want you to make good decisions. The loan rates vary from very good and very doable to really not. So it's important to know about those. Employment on campus jobs, most international students will work on campus. Not all, we don't have enough to fund everyone, but many of our students do have part-time jobs. We tell students it's enough for your pizza money, it's enough to go to the movies, but it's certainly not enough to make a dent into the cost of attendance. So we want students to know that up front. Off-campus internships and co-ops, oftentimes those are paid, but they tend not to be until your third or fourth year. International students get one internship opportunities during that 4-year program, so know that possibly in the third or fourth year you would receive that, and it might very well be paid. And then finally, there are scholarships. Again, it kind of falls under that merit. If you're coming from a school and you have the IB or the AP or the A levels, one, you might get scholarships based on the rigor of your program, but also the real savings is that you may be able to complete your program in 3 years as opposed to 4. So again, my institution, many are the same. If you come in with the IB diploma or A levels, if you come in with that, we can get you out. We give you a year of credit so you're able to complete your program in 3 years. So that's 25% discount right there. So many different types of scholarship funding, and oftentimes by stacking them, schools will become a little bit more affordable.
Okay, so that's where you're getting your money from. Where does all that money go? It goes lots of different places. I think the most easiest to understand are going to be these direct university costs. You've got your tuition, which is actually the cost that is going into pay for your program of study, right? All these top ones here are going to go together to form the numbers that go onto your immigration document, your I-20, which you then bring to your visa interview. And the money that's listed on that document is to show that you have enough money to pay for these fixed expenses that going to school in the United States at your particular institution costs. So you've got tuition. In tuition, we've got additional fees down here, but tuition and fees can often get lumped together. And that's the starting point of what you're paying the university directly to study there. So that's, yeah, that's what that is. Room and board is going to be where you're living and what you're eating. So hopefully everybody's eating well each day. You want to have a healthy brain, and that takes good food in the system. But those are important things. Room can be on campus, it can be off campus. There's lots of different options. Different universities have lots of different options. Even on campus, there will be different prices. But each university will have a set number that they put onto their form. Health insurance, in the United States, health insurance can be tricky. If you get hurt and hurt yourself badly and you don't have health insurance, you can get into bad financial debt in the United States. So most, if not all, campuses require their students have health insurance so that if they do get hurt, they do get sick, it's not going to destroy their financial security and they can still continue their studies and finish their program. Additional fees, activities fees, lab fees, orientation fees, they're all things that are going to the university to pay for the different services. If you're in the nursing program, you might have a nursing lab fee. For your orientation, to start your time at the school, you're going to have an orientation fee. So that stuff's easy to understand. Indirect costs is where it can get more complicated. Travel to and from the United States is going to be a cost that you're going to have to pay. You might go home for the holidays, you might go home for the summertime. These are all things, expenses to think about before you make your budget, before you decide how much money you have for university. Transportation within the town or city or wherever you are going to school, you might not live right next to the campus. If you're in an urban area in New York, you might have to take a taxi, you might have to take an Uber, you might have to get on the subway. Metro? What do we call it in New York? Subway. Technology. You probably don't want to do all of your essay work on your cell phone, right? You're going to want a laptop computer. You're going to want to be able to work professionally, and that means having a computer. Some programs will have computers that you can access, but it's good to be able to have your own as well, if you can afford it, if it's something you want. Books. We're all going to school, you're going to be reading things, right? Different schools have different programs. You can buy digital books. Sometimes there are book exchanges where you're buying a book for a class from the person who took it the previous semester or year, but that's money that you're also spending. And then personal expenses, shopping. This is where things can get complicated, especially if you really like shopping. But you're going to be spending money on things like clothing, on shoes, on socks, on shampoo and deodorant and toilet paper. All these things cost money, right? So you need to work those into your budget as well. So there's the stark black and white numbers that you'll see on the financial documents, what the university requires. But for you to do your studies well, to succeed mentally, physically, socially, all the things, you need to take these other costs into account as well.
So I'm going to talk about two types of work authorization that are available for international students on F1 visa. So the international students can do the CPT or curricular practical training or OPT, optional practical training. There's like common thing that it has to be related to the field of study. And there are differences between one and the other one. The CPT, the student needs to complete the CPT during the study, meaning before graduation. And the OPT, the student completes this OPT after graduation. Sometimes they can do just pre-OPT, so start working before graduation, and then they need to complete the rest after graduation. So CPT, it can be done for up to 12 months, but there's a tricky part here. So if they work full-time for 12 months, so then they are not available or eligible to work OPT. And for OPT, so they can work for 12 months, and if the field of study is STEM related, so they can just complete it up to 36 months. The other difference is that CPT has to be approved by the school department, and OPT needs to be approved by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Office.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so now's the time to ask questions. Parents, you can ask the questions in Spanish if you wish. Most of the reps speak Spanish.
Yes.
Yo te digo.
Does anyone have any questions about any of the information that you've listened to? You can hear me, right? Yeah. I have a big voice. Does anyone have any questions? I'll pass it. Oh, okay. So does anyone have any questions about anything that you've heard, or anything at all that, you know, as you're sitting there, you're thinking, well, I would really like to know, da-da-da-da-da, and they didn't cover that. So, anyone at all, don't be shy. Yes?
Why? Thank you. It's interesting for me to know, why are international students attractive to you? Like, why, You have a lot of people over there who go to your universities. How do we enrich your institution, or why is it that we are, attractive for you to recruit us?
Absolutely. It's a great question.
That's a really great question. I'll speak from the viewpoint of my institution and kind of try to generalize and give space for my colleagues to do the same. For our institutions, a lot of our missions and values really revolve around creating a place of learning for our students that goes beyond the classroom. So it means creating a community where people talk to each other, they learn from each other, and they have experiences that are different from one another. And so international students bring that to the table, right? Of course, we have American students who fulfill that as well, who bring their own experiences and unique backgrounds, but we also believe international students do the same. And so we believe that they bring something very enriching to not just conversations in our classrooms, but to our community at large. And so they are part of what it means for us to fulfill our institutional mission. I will at least say that on behalf of Fordham.
My university, Fair State, is in kind of an opposite situation of New York City. New York's got 5 million-ish people, and my town has about 10,000 people. And it's a state university, so it pulls people from all over the state. But outside of the cities, Michigan can be fairly rural, small towns, farming communities. So we get a lot of people who come without a lot of experience of the world outside of their town, their county, their state. So to Nat's point, bringing in people with different experience, with different life perspectives, changes your life to come to the school in the United States. It also changes lives of American students to meet you.
I think we can move on to any other questions that you have.
I want to add something. Don't move on. I think that this is a great example of what international students bring to the university. There was a case of a classroom in the School of Architecture at a very well-known university in the United States. And they were all American students, except for one student from Mexico. And they brought in their diagrams and their projects. And most of the projects were glass and steel and cement. It was a sea of gray until the Mexican student brought up his project. And it was beautiful, vivid colors. So the dialogue based on his presentation immediately changed. Why did he use the products that he used? Why did he use the colors that he used? And it was his opportunity to share his culture in the classroom. And everyone in that classroom then, their eyes opened to other opportunities. That's what the international student brings. So we appreciate those dialogues and that cultural exchange that only the international student can provide. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? All right, I'm sure, yes.
I'm Jane. I was telling my students, reaching it. I went to Arizona State. Yeah. And I went to Arizona State, and when I went there, one of my best friends said, "Where do you live? You live up on top of a tree. How do you?" I'm like, "What?" I said, "Excuse me. We have BMWs. We have." Back then, Range Rovers were really, amazing in El Salvador. And he's like, "You are kidding me." I said, "No." And they thought that all Latin Americans were Mexicans, so we had to make a Mexican Latin American club. And every year we had like a fair, a club fair. And people were like, "Wow, amazing, you have pupusas, you have this, that, and the other." So we did teach our friends that Latin America, it was not Mexico, and Latin America, we didn't live on top of the trees, It sounds funny, but that's the lack of knowledge. And that's what international students bring to the U.S. universities. Here, I'm talking about the 80s, okay? But yeah.
They still do.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so any questions coming in, or
Can we see if we have?
anyone have any questions? Oh, should we go on to the next presentation?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, lovely.
Adriana has a question.
Yes.
What about in classrooms that are mostly lecture halls, how can you really interact with the faculty or with other students from different cultures when there's like, you know, when there's a lot of students, like 300 students, how...
In a lecture hall.
Yeah, how do you
Okay,
bring that to the table?
so in the case of a lecture hall, what happens?
Right, I mean, the first thing we always tell students is that in the US, every instructor, professor has hours set aside each week to meet with students. So the first day of the class, they tell you, they tell you the first day, these are the hours that I'm available to meet with you one-on-one. So you're having someone with probably a PhD sit down and answer any questions that you're not clear about. So that's the first thing. We encourage students, you know, go and meet with your professors, whether you have an A or maybe not, because you're making that connection. Maybe there's an internship opportunity or research down the road, or you need a recommendation letter, but you want to connect with your faculty. A lot of times there's study groups and tutoring sessions for difficult classes where people tend to struggle. That breaks it down into very small groups. So, for example, a big, you know, you'll have a bio class, but then you'll have a lab, and the lab is, you know, very small. So you have the ability there to kind of bring things down to a smaller level. The bigger institutions, I'm 12,000 undergrads, we have living learning communities that are designed to take that freshman class of 2,500 and break it down to 40 people. So we have, most of us, all of us, have ways to make a large place seem much more intimate and manageable for that first year. By the second year, you're a pro, and you don't need anything, you know, broken down for you. But for that first year, we have a lot of insurance policies kind of built into making you successful.
Go ahead.
I can't really answer the question because at Hope we don't have lecture halls. And this is that other end of the spectrum where I think depending on where you go to university, like the classrooms at Hope, like this would have been a bigger class at Hope. There might be 35 of you in here. The average class size at Hope is between 15 and 25. And so that completely, I mean, it's just a different way of getting educated. And it's not that one is better or worse, but rather just different. I went to school with friends. I grew up in Michigan. And 98% of the friends that I had in high school went to either University of Michigan or Michigan State. And those classes were lecture halls with 200, 300 students, and they were being taught by maybe the professor or maybe a teacher's assistant, a TA. But the point being that don't think that all universities or colleges are the same. I'd ask yourself again, like with the fit question, what atmosphere are you going to thrive in? Maybe it is a lecture hall, and there are ways and avenues to make it feel less big. Or maybe you're looking for something more intimate, smaller, and that exists as well.
I did my undergraduate degree at a program where I did not have a professor know my name until my senior year. So I fell through those cracks in some ways. Wasn't supported, and it took me a while to go back to school when I went for my master's. And what I realized was engagement. You know, your professors will have, if they have big lecture halls, you will have office hours and other ways to talk with them, but there are also events, you know, department events, off-campus events. Paying attention to event calendars is what's happening within your college, within your college within the university, the general university. There are lots of ways to, one, find your people, but also find your way to connect with the professors that you want to connect with.
I think that one of the lessons here is that it's up to you. You are now an adult. You're living on your college campus. You've chosen this university because you believe it's your fit. And so if it's a large institution with 300 in a lecture hall, then you have to be proactive to figure out how do I create my relationship with my professor, with my peers, and with my study group and everything else. And you will be successful. If you don't, you're going to fall in the crack, and you're not going to know how to navigate it. But the institution gives you every mechanism that you need to be successful because you have chosen a large institution. I'm originally from New York, I went to a large high school, which I loved, and I was involved in everything. And then I went to a large state, well, medium-sized state university in New York, and I was a number for the first year, and I loved that. Nobody knew who I was. This is great. But as I moved up, sophomore year, junior year, then I was really involved in my major. And so it was a smaller group of people, and it was a much more intimate opportunity to get to know everybody. So I think you find your path, you know? But you do, as a student on the university campus, you have to be proactive. Nobody's gonna come and take your hand and say, follow me, and we're gonna, you know, get you where you gotta go. So it's really up to the student to find their success. Shall we move along?
Yeah, let's go ahead. You have another question?
Let's move along. Yeah.
There's another part of the presentation. If you have a question, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sarah. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I just want to say thank you for coming. This really helps a lot because learning to study in a different country can be really scary and very nervous. I have two questions. First, something that stresses me out a lot is the personal essay. So whenever I ask my friends about it, they say that I have to write something that has to be impactful, that has to make me a part of people, and sometimes I feel like nothing has really happened in my life to make me feel special. And you guys were saying that you can write about something that is special to you as long as you talk about yourself, and that really helped a lot to change my perspective about it. So that, and my other question, well, you can talk about it if you want. I don't really say the question. My second question is actually a question is, how can I organize my classes? So I don't really know what I want to study. It's not in stone yet, so that also just another one. But if I were to study something STEM, for example, would I be able to take a course or a class that is in arts in university? Because I need to have art in my life, and I can't just study STEM because I will die. So would I be able to take a class in, I don't know, art history if I were in Europe, or is that not possible?
I have the mic and I'm happy to answer it and then pass it on, because I think anyone who represents a liberal arts institution, such as myself or Roberto, this is actually exactly what we're looking for in the application. Students who aren't just typecast into one thing. We want to see that you have multiple interests. So I'm going to answer your question in this way. It depends on the school, which sucks as an answer because it means you have to do more work and you have to talk to all the schools you're interested in and see what they're looking for. But many institutions, such as liberal arts institutions, aren't going to admit by major. So for example, Fordham does not admit by major. We only have one major specific requirement, and that's for the business school. But you could be applying to visual arts or biochemistry, and we wouldn't criticize you for taking art history or not taking it in either case. So that's specific to our school. And actually, a student who takes classes that they're passionate about and expresses that through other parts of the application, for example, that's a great essay idea. You're someone who's interested in STEM but needs to have art in their life. That's something very unique that you can write about. So that's why we say that it doesn't have to be super exciting or grandiose things, it's about you. And so to answer the question, sometimes the courses don't matter, but it depends on the institution. It doesn't for me. I'm not sure if that's not the case for someone here.
Yeah, I want you guys to every single one of you answer questions.
Yeah, I'll give you like my personal example. My daughter is doing finance, but she has been playing the violin since 5th grade, and violin and music is her passion. So ASU was able to give her that opportunity that she's doing like School of Business, but she can still play her instrument. And we offer performances, so we have the Gamage Theater where all the families and students, faculty are invited to see all those performances, kind of like high school, still continue in the university.
Thank you. So at Ferris State University, you would not only be allowed to take an art class, but you might have to. Because you'd have general education credits, so you have different categories of classes. There will be certain classes that every student takes. And then there will be general requirements, so they call them Gen Eds, general education credits, and you might have to have 3 classes in science, 3 classes in art, 2 classes in culture, and these are numbers I'm making up right now, but they are, and then in those categories there will be 10 to 20 courses that can fill those requirements. Please.
So it will be like in my high school, it's a high school.
Yep.
You have to take the basic courses, that is like English, science, and then you also choose something.
Correct.
That can be only arts or only math. So you do want to see.
It would be, yes, in that you get to choose which courses you want to take to fulfill those requirements. There are then also elective classes, so maybe you want to take a specific sculpture class, but you've already filled all of your arts requirements. You can still take that class. It just won't necessarily go towards your program, towards your graduation, but you're still able to take it. And the last thing, I'm just going to stop talking a lot, but is clubs. So there is your academic courses, and then there are lots of clubs. We have 220 student organizations, a little more than that. So no matter what medium of art you love, or game that you love, or hobby that you have, you can find that community within the school. They're often after school, they're in evening times or on weekends, so that's a great way to find your people, your community.
Same. Honestly, at a place like Hope College, every single thing that was just mentioned, same. And I'll add to the idea of maybe you feel like there's nothing impactful or very that's happened in your life that you can write about in your essay. Even just what you said there of, I have to have art in my life. Like, we don't get that a lot, especially for someone that you said engineering. Especially for, yeah, or was that? An idea, yeah. But the idea being, so what we say at Hope is we don't ever want you to sacrifice a passion in the arts for a career in the sciences. Yeah. And you don't have to. And you don't have to. And sure.
When the entire time I was blunt out, now I have a lot of friends. It's a lot. So I just studied in high school, and everything's in English. Do I have to take a TOEFL because I'm from Panama and it's in Spanish, or can that school record say that I already speak English?
Yeah, depends on the institution. At Hope, we can, if we verify that your school has an English curriculum, we'll waive the English proficiency test. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
I will be considered as an international student if I study on the American school, American high school, because there is American high school, but I'm far.
Correct, yeah. You would. Yes, if you, I think it just boils down to, do you have citizenship in the United States? If the answer is no, you would be applying as an international student. If the answer is yes, and you're a dual citizen, then you'd be applying as an American citizen.
Yeah, you'll have plenty of time to talk individually to the university representatives and ask all these questions. But we want to wrap up this portion so that you do have that one-on-one interaction with the reps. Yeah. Plenty of and let me please workshop. And I only want to know if the university cost and the inward cost is the same for all the universities here.
No, so every school is different costs. But we're all very transparent and we all have it written down. So you're able to take that with you tonight so you have a really accurate idea of what your costs will be.
Yeah, so you guys had very good questions. So they were giving you overall tips, but every institution, that's where we have these college fairs. So you can actually ask all these questions about the financing, the essays, the admission, the TOEFL requirements. And we do have a long history of so So we do have a long history in Panama we do have dual citizens because of the canal zone where you are right now. The City of Knowledge used to be the Clayton Army base, not so long ago. I'm old enough to remember. So we do have that history. So if we have students in the room, I'm happy to help because then you can apply to FAFSA and other financial aid as a U.S. citizen. So I'm just going to go quick because this is the last portion because we do want you to talk to all the representatives and I'm looking at some of you that I know have specific questions for them. So for those of you, how many of you is the first time in this Pan American Center? Oh, okay, good. Welcome. Okay. So just brief about Education USA. So it's a program out of the State Department. And as Jo Beth mentioned, how many universities are in the U.S.? Oh my God, guys. 4,500. Yes. So over 4,000, yeah. So over 4,500 universities. So what we do at Education USA is help you with 5 steps. Here it's in Spanish. So we help you in research options. Why? Because there are 4,500 universities, right? So we have in the East Coast and in the West Coast and big and small. And Jo Beth does a great job in capturing a little sample of each so that you can get an idea of what universities are because it depends on what you want to study and where you want to live. So there are many options. So we help you with that. And this event today, we're hitting number 1. So we're helping you do that research. And also research about the major, right? Because there's so many majors that haven't even been invented yet, but you do need those skill sets. So this allows you to research those options of what you want to study and do that combination. That's the beauty of the universities in the U.S. You can do a major and then a minor, especially in STEM. And then financing options, even though we don't have specific scholarships, we do have information about some of the scholarships that the embassy has. We have information about Tennessee. We're going to have Dr. Dario Solis, who's visiting us from Arizona State University. There's a scholarship open right now for grad school sponsored by Tennessee. Es una beca completa que tiene el gobierno de Panamá para el área de semiconductores. So it's one of the STEM hot fields right now for Panama is the semiconductor industry. So he'll talk to us a little bit about that. And then we also have, in terms of financing, we have some information from IFARU. So IFARU is our government agency for loans. So Panamanians have access to up to $120,000. And IFARU right now is led by an ex-Fulbrighter. So I'm very happy and have hope that that we have that information for you, so that's also an option for Panamanian students to complement the cost of the university. So we also have information about that for you today. So that's that. Also, for the visas, many students have questions about the visas. The universities provide all the information you need to get your student visa, so you don't have to stress about that. We also have information on our YouTube channel and on previous presentations just to guide you about that, but that, of course, it's a decision the consulate makes, but as Education USA, we also have resources for those. Okay, so again, researching options. So we've had virtual fairs. This was, Jo Beth, I think one of the first events we did with you here. Yeah. With some universities, we're still masking, but we've been doing this. This was the last time you were here. So we also have events in the university for law school. This is another example for graduate events. And another example, since we have ASU here, a webinar we did to promote graduate education, and we always try to bring alumni, Panamanian alumni, so you actually ask questions to them as well. So again, financing options, I'm just going to go quick, and some of the embassy programs that they have for short term. And this is where I'm going to stop because I wanted to make sure our Tennessee colleagues ask for us. So this, I'm going to ask Dr. Dario Solis. So Dario, I've known him for, I don't know, many years. Over 15 years now. Which is kind of scary. So Dr. Solis was also a Fulbrighter, and we met when I worked at Tennessee, and we helped create a dual master's degree with UTP and the Georgia Institute of Technology. That program still is going on, which I'm excited about. But then he went back to the States, and he's with Arizona State now. Yes. So he just came from, he's Panamanian, but he's literally visiting this week, so it's great timing, and he's part of the strategy for semiconductor, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and encourage our students.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. As she said, my name is Dario Solis, soy panameño. I went to the US many years ago as a Fulbrighter and had the chance to study a master's and PhD in engineering. And also have worked for several universities, University of Iowa, UT Dallas, Texas Tech, Georgia Tech, and now Arizona State University. My role right now is as business director for the Arizona State University Fulton Schools of Engineering, which is the largest school of engineering in the US, about 145,000 students. A few years ago, there was an initiative launched at the United States of America to strengthen the semiconductors and microelectronics field. And the reason for that is everything you have, probably your refrigerator has a couple of chips. This got 50, 60 chips. Some cars have 2,000 chips. And what happened during the pandemic was that some of those chips couldn't make it to the markets where the products were being produced and manufactured. What happened then was you had a bunch of cars, thousands and thousands of cars parked, but people couldn't buy cars because the supply chain got interrupted. So they saw how vulnerable humans are to not having these chips. And sometimes it's something like, oh, well, if I have an older phone, perhaps I'm not going to die. But there are many, many machines, many systems, energy, communications, transportation that depend on having these chips. So what happens is that every country should have some sort of capacity in chip manufacturing. You have to have an understanding how these things work so that you can also provide support to your activities inside your country. But Panama and other 5 countries were invited by the United States to participate in the International Technology Security Innovation Fund program. And then that includes some countries like the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and on our side, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Panama. So because of that, last year on the 30th of April, a presidential decree was signed by the President of Panama then, and that decree included 3 components, one of which was the scholarship program that I'm about to talk about. The other component was to create a research center at the Universidad Tecnológica de Panama so that we could have a center that would allow specialized research to be conducted, to train people, and also have international partnerships. And the third one was the relationship with ASU. ASU is a partner to Panama in this respect, and we're very happy that we're promoting right now. I've had like 3 or 4 meetings this week because we wanted to make sure to take advantage, because when you're starting from something, we call it green field. You don't have a manufacturing capability in that area here, so you were going to build something basically from scratch. So this program closes on the 17th of April, so we don't have a lot of time for people to apply, but we are doing what we can to make sure that we provide the support to Panamanian students that have graduated in a degree. It could be physics, it could be engineering, it could be several other fields, because when you're starting, you need to know how to build these facilities, you need to know what kind of processes you have, manufacturing processes. You have, of course, the materials. I mean, it's a very rich area. So this scholarship program includes master's and PhD programs in areas like industrial engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer engineering, and also it looks at the sustainability component of it. Sustainability is very important because this manufacturing area is very resource intensive. And in the case of sustainability, we need to make sure that we are not polluting the environment, we are not destroying the environment, we are not killing people or hurting people by manufacturing this. For example, in Arizona, we have a humongous growth. It's more than $200 billion in investment in the last few years, just creating more plants like TSMC, Intel, Micron, Amcor. Huge investments, so it's a huge demand for talent. And Panama is a small country here that is kind of a door to the United States market. So many supply chains across the canal, the connectivity with the air connectivity, maritime connectivity allows countries like the United States, of course, to manufacture all these devices. So it's a huge opportunity, and Panama is investing. We'll continue this program for 2026, 27, 28. If everything plays the way we want it to play. And that's going to include also the business side. Every student is going to be also taught entrepreneurship and innovation, because we also want the students, after they come back, to be able to start their own businesses. So anyhow, so this is a great opportunity. If you don't know what semiconductor manufacturing microelectronics are, I would tell you to come to ASU, say microelectronics at ASU, and you'll see a lot of resources in there. It gives you a lot of information. Of course, ASU is not the only university. There are 7 other partner universities that also have programs in semiconductors. So, but anyhow, if you have any questions, I don't know if this is time to take questions.
I think I want to leave Dalia for the right, because it was really a good coincidence that he was in town. Well, you're welcome to ask any question about EducationUSA. This is our Instagram. Many of you know it, EducationUSA Panama. And we provide information about these scholarships and other programs that Senacid has available for Panamanians or any other question that you might have. So, Jobeth, I don't know if you have any other question. That's more, the program, the scholarship that's here is more for graduate school, but it helps you as you figure out what you want to major as an undergrad. It's also good. And I had the opportunity to visit Michigan actually 2 years ago, thanks to a wonderful Jim Crawley. And Hope College, I can attest that the classrooms were smaller than my high school, and I went to a very small high school. So they're wonderful options. So make sure you ask any questions. I don't know if anybody has any question about EducationUSA, the scholarships, or anything that. You're good?
Got one over here.
You?
Hi, my question is if these opportunities were innovated for the year 2027, because I just started my first year in Technological University of Panama. In fact, today was my first day of class in university. So also I'm wondering if you also have any other opportunities, not only for master degree or PhD.
So that's a good question. So I didn't bring those slides, but we actually have 2 programs that we created last year with UTP and the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth, where we have a hybrid program. We're helping 5 companies in Panama Pacifico. So it's a program sponsored by Senacid, and it's a mobility program where Panamanian students from UTP, very bilingual and have grades, get to go take a hybrid class and then help the companies, and then also get to travel to Massachusetts. We also have a program with Illinois Tech we did last year, where Panamanian students were able to go to Illinois Tech for 10 weeks, and this year they're going to Notre Dame, students from USMA. So yes, you don't want to wait. If you decide to do your undergrad in Panama and you're thinking about the US more for grad school, you don't have to wait 4 years to look for these type of opportunities. The idea is for you to take advantage of any of these opportunities, just apply, And the way you apply, you didn't take the advice from this wonderful guest today, because you also have to do an essay, and you have to, so that gives you actually practice for when you apply to grad school, when you apply for these short-term programs. So yes, actually we've been focusing a lot on these type of programs because it helps strengthen our local undergrad degrees and gives you an opportunity to do experiential learning, right? Because it's not the same thing when you go take the class, but you actually go to a lab where you actually end up working on a project with other students. So that's a wonderful question. We'll let you know when we have another call open, but we do have these agreements with UTP, which is our main technological university in many of these schools, so that you have this opportunity to also travel for short term before you apply for grad. And it looks like it's far away, but before you know it, you'll be graduating. So, so keep adding that, keep perfecting your English, keep attending, be part of IEEE, be part of all these programs that Santa Seed has to offer as a UTP student. And for those who are watching in Veraguas and Chiriquí, same thing, because a lot of these scholarships, they're actually looking for students that are in all the provinces. The more diverse, the merrier. So it's only for students that live in Panama City. So make sure you know that. Any other questions? Others, do you have any questions? No? You're going to leave the questions then for the reps. I know, Joe Beth, if you...
Make sure that everyone, before you leave, if you haven't, make sure you stop by and make sure you register.
Yes.
So the universities can follow up with you and provide you with more information. And we can get some electronic brochures out to you quickly from my office. We want to look at this encounter as the starting point of a dialogue between you and the institutions and your goals to study in the United States, not an end.
Exactly.
So, please do take full advantage of everything that Gladys's office offers to you. We're here today, we'll be back next year, but she's here every day. Wonderful opportunity, an outstanding professional. So please do always visit her services. But since we are here today, we want to make sure we capture your information. So I do want to thank you all for joining us.
That's great. So go ahead and register and make sure you ask questions to all the representatives that are here. Gracias por venir. Muchas gracias. Gracias por conectarse.